Welcome back to another video, and in this video we are comparing two lenses here that are pretty similar. First we have the DZOFilm 20-55, and then we also have the Fuji MK 18-55. Both cinema lenses, both pretty comparable price range, and yeah, let's dive right in. Okay, so the Fuji lens, I believe, has been around for a little bit longer. It started out as an E-mount lens for like the FX6, FX9, FX3, that kind of thing. And then also MFT for cameras like the Pocket Cinema 4K or other MFT cameras. This is a T2.9 with a back focus, a macro switch. It has a pretty decent minimum focus distance. And it's very light. This lens is 2.2 pounds. I really like this lens for its weight and its size. Supposedly you can balance this lens on a Komodo on an RS3 Pro. So in a future video, I'm gonna attempt that, and that might be the perfect combo for other stuff. We'll talk about that later. But they also make a pair for this. It's a 50-135, and the cool thing with the Fuji lenses is they are exactly the same weight and size. So the idea is they made this that way you can swap it on a camera that's on a gimbal and you don't have to rebalance. So that's really nice. It has rings for iris, zoom, and focus. Again, 2.2 pounds, it's pretty lightweight. I would say the con with this lens is only E-mount. I wish it was EF mount, because then I could put it on so many different cameras, but oh well. E-mount and MFT, those two are swappable, but if you want RF, you either have to buy RF or you can get one of the other two modded to be an RF mount, but no EF mount, which is kind of a bummer, but oh well. This lens is $3,800 retail, and then you can also buy it as a pair. So now let's talk about this guy here. This one is a little bit shorter, but it is a little bit heavier. So this lens comes in at 3.3 pounds, and you can feel it. It's a little bit heavier. I'm not sure if you could balance this on an RS3 Pro. You definitely can on a Movi Pro, but yeah, it's a little heavier. And the cool thing with these lenses are they come in EF or PL mount, so you can swap this mount, which is really sick. And they're slightly cheaper, $2,500. It is sold as a pair as well. There's another one, it's a 50-125. Which is cool, so kind of similar focal range. It's T2.8. I would say the downside is it's not the same weight and size, the other version of this. So you can't do what you can with these. But a little bit larger front element here, which is really nice. So I would say the cons are it's heavier and the pair doesn't match. It's also not RF, so it's not native to the Komodo, which isn't a big deal. This lens kind of is Komodo specific if you get the RF mount. It also works on the C70, which is cool. So Canon, Komodo, those are kind of your two options there. I'm not sure if I've seen a video comparing these two lenses, but either way, my comparison's a little bit different because normally I shoot concert films, music videos, like that kind of thing, not necessarily like lifestyle out there. So I'm not taking these lenses outside, shooting stuff out there. I'm gonna show you what these look like in a concert scene. So I set up a little scene in my basement and my son played drums for us, so we filmed these two. And we kind of made a fun little rig so that way we could try to get very, very similar angles at the same time. Okay, so when you're trying to film a video and compare lenses, you have to build some funky rigs and turn your kitchen into your set piece. Okay, so we're filming the comparison video between the Fuji and the DZOFilm, two very similar lenses on Komodos, but to get the same frame, we decided to build a rig. So both of these are attached in the middle, and then we have the rod supporting it with some wireless here. So that way on our wireless monitor, I can view it, but we also have David up in the two cameras. And it's a pretty sick setup to capture two things at the same time. So that was the rig that we used to film it. So let's talk about the image. I would say both of these actually have quite a similar image. The biggest difference that I've noticed is the flares. The Fuji flare is a little bit nicer. It kind of has that classic Fuji flare, which it's not Canon by any means. Canon flares are my favorite, and it's still slightly less than like a Sigma flare, but it does have a decent small flare. This doesn't necessarily have a flare that I could find, but when you point it directly into light, it kind of has a halo around the perimeter, as you can see here. And that's kind of interesting to me. It is all the way wide and at t2.8, but that is interesting that it gives a slight halo. I've used the Fuji on a couple of shoots in comparison with the Canon cinema lenses that I normally use and talk about, and it is slightly less contrastier than those and slightly less sharp than those. But that is honestly not that big of a deal. You can add contrast and sharpness back in post, and with 6K, you're not really gonna notice that. I do probably prefer the image out of the Fuji. People tend to like this because it's super, super clean and super sharp. And it's not like the Sigma sharpness, and it's not like Canon. It definitely has a different characteristic, but it's a very, very clean image. Okay, so wrapping things up, as you can see with the examples that we're throwing on the screen here, they both produce a very, very clean image. I mean, there's nothing wrong with either of these lenses. It's definitely personal preference. I would say with the DZOFilm, they make a lot of different lenses now, some primes, different zooms, and so if that's something that you're into, they have a wide variety. They're very well built, super solid. The EFPL mount is really, really cool. It is a little heavier, and it does have that weird halo thing. I'd be interested to see some of their other lenses if it does do that halo. So on the flip side, the Fuji version is a lot lighter, and there's only 2 of them. So I understand that Fuji's trying to say, you know, 2 lenses, you get everything you need from 18 to 135 millimeters, which is quite a big range, all at t2.9. But I do wish that they kind of had a few more flavors in this lineup. Definitely wish they had an EF mount. For me, I'll probably end up sticking with the Fuji set. I have a shoot later this year where I'm planning on all the cameras using the 18 to 55 or the 50 to 135, and just seeing what we can do with the full lineup of these lenses. I would be curious to test out some of these other DZOFilms and actually see how it works. Next week, we're actually shooting with both of these at the same time. It'll be a fun comparison again to see how these two react. Obviously, this is gonna be a lot easier handheld because it's lighter. This is definitely a beast. Well, I think that wraps it up for comparing these two as much as I can right now. If you'd like to see more videos like this, feel free to hit subscribe and comment below what you would like to see next.